Welcome back everyone. Sir Lawrence here. In our previous discussion, we discussed about the four layers of the Earth. Remember, we have the crust, mantle, outer core, and inner core. And we had the five themes of geography. We have the location, region, human-environment interaction, movement, and last but not the least, the place. Now today we will discuss about the branches of geography. So there are two branches. We have physical geography and human geography. Now let's start with physical geography. It is the study of the physical features of the world, such as landforms. In landforms, we will discuss about continents, hills, mountains, deserts, valleys, and glacier. Now let's proceed with water forms. Now what are the water forms? We have oceans, sea, gulf, bay, and rivers. And we have the climate and the plants. That is physical geography. Now, before we proceed to these physical features, let's discuss about Alfred Wegener and the three types of plate tectonic boundaries. Alright class, so let's proceed with Alfred Wegener. Alfred Wegener is a German polar researcher, geophysicist, and meteorologist. Alfred Wegener said, 200 million years ago, all of the continents were combined. Yes, all of the continents were combined into a supercontinent called Pangaea. Pangaea is right here, class. This is a supercontinent. Okay? Now, years after, the supercontinent Pangaea broke apart into 7 continents, and this process is called the continental drift. Again, the continental drift. Alright, so let's proceed with the plate tectonics theory. So the outermost part of the Earth's surface or structure is known as the lithosphere. The lithosphere consists of the crust, this is the crust right here class, and the upper mantle itself, right here. Now this is the lithosphere. The lithosphere is divided into a number of tectonic plates. Now these plates moves and interact with one another. And these plates class is always moving. Yes, they move very slowly class, that we cannot feel it right here. It moves from 1 to 2 inches per year. Again, it moves from 1 to 2 inches per year. That's why we cannot feel it. Now, these plates will meet in boundaries. Now, we will discuss about these boundaries later on. Now we have the three types of plate tectonic boundaries. Now, like I said, class, this is a boundary, this line right here. Now, what about the plates? So these are the plates, okay? These gray squares or rectangles, sorry. Okay, so first type, we have the convergent boundaries. So convergent boundaries are two plates, again, two plates moving towards one another. Two plates moving towards one another. So there are two results of this. So one will create a volcano and one will create a mountain itself. Let's start with the first one. So once they move towards one another and once they collide, one plate, okay, one plate will dive down, this plate right here. The deeper this plate goes, the more pressure it creates. The pressure with a high heat, okay, the crust will melt itself and it will form a magma right here, okay? It will form a magma right here. And that magma will go to the surface, goes up to the surface, and will create a volcano itself. Now let's proceed. The second one will create mountains. Why? Once they move towards one another and they collide, those plates will fold and lift up. okay, as you can see in that picture, and it will create mountains. And these mountains will continue to grow because the plates are always moving. Take note of that, class. Okay? Second type is the transform boundaries. Now this type is very different with the convergent one. The plates in the transform boundaries are sliding past each other in the opposite direction. Again, sliding past each other in the opposite direction. Example, one plate will go left and one plate will go to the right. And these plates will create a fault line, as you can see in that picture. A fault line or a crack. As they move, they are up against one another. So there's a tendency, class, ma-stuck ni sila. If these plates will stuck for a long time, the pressure will continue to build at the fault line until it releases, and it will create an earthquake itself. Yes, that is a transform boundaries. Now let's proceed. Next up is the divergent boundaries. Now these plates moves away from one another, which creates a crack. Mostly, this type right here happens in the oceans, in our oceans class. Okay, once there is a crack, the magma will go up and fills the space, as you can see in that picture. Now, the magma is faster, okay, to go up because the crust under the ocean is very thin when you compare to the crust in the land. This right here is called the seafloor spreading. Now, some scientists said, mo ning reason magkalayo atong lands or continents itself. So speaking of continents, we have the continents right here. So a continent is a huge land masses surrounded by sea or oceans. Now there are 7 continents in the world class. We have North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, and Antarctica. Now let me ask you guys, what is the biggest or largest continent in the world? Alright, so the answer is Asia. Very good. Okay, why Asia? The total area of Asia is 44.6 million square kilometers. Okay, that is Asia. Asia class is composed of 48 countries, and the world population as of 2018, it is 4.55 billion people. That is Asia. Next, largest is Africa. Next, North America, South America, and until we have the smallest continent, which is Australia. It is 8.6 square kilometers only. Next up are the mountains. The mountains are the highest landforms and formed by the movement of a tectonic plates that push the land upward, like we discussed before. Okay, so there are 5 types of mountains class. First, we have the fold mountains. Now the fold mountains are the most common type of a mountain we have today, and these are Rocky Mountains class. Examples, we have the Andes Mountains and Himalayas. The Andes Mountains class is the longest mountain range in the world, as you can see in that picture. Okay, that is the Andes Mountains. Next up, we have the Himalayas. The Himalayas is the longest mountain range in Asia. Again, in Asia. As you can see in this picture, okay, we have the Himalayas right here. This is very beautiful. Another example is the Mount Everest. Okay, the Mount Everest is located in Nepal. It is the highest point in the world, which is part of the Great Himalaya Range or Himalayas Range. It is 8,848 meters class. That's the Mount Everest. Next type is a fault block mountain. Now, this type right here is formed when faults in Earth's crust push some materials up and other materials down, as you can see in that picture below. Okay, so examples of the fault block mountains class include the Sierra Nevada in California and Nevada. Another is the Harz Mountains in Germany. You can see that in Google. Another type of mountain is the Dome Mountain. Now this is very interesting class because the Dome Mountain is formed with a great amount of melted rock or magma pushing its way up under the Earth's crust. Now the magma pushes up, overlaying the rock layers without erupting. Again, without erupting, unlike the volcano class, onto the surface. Now example of a Dome Mountain is the Black Hills in western or South Dakota. Okay, and another example is the Mount Pinatubo. Yes, some scientists said that Mount Pinatubo is a dome mountain, or considered as a dome mountain. Next is the volcanic mountain, another type of mountain. It is formed when molten rocks deep within erupts and masses upon the surface, as you can see in that picture. Okay, now it is formed by converging plates or the subduction zone, like we discussed kanina. Okay, so example of these volcanoes, we have the Mayon volcano, Taal volcano, and Mount Fuji, in Japan. Next, we have the highest active volcano, which is the Ojos del Salado. Now, Ojos del Salado is found in the Andes on the Argentina or Chile border, the highest active volcano in the world at 6,893 meters. That's the Ojos del Salado. Another type of mountain, we have the plateau. Now, the plateau class is also called a high plain or a tableland. It's an area of a highland, usually consisting of relatively flat terrain. Now, the plateau is formed like a dome mountain class, as magma deep inside the earth pushes toward the surface but fails to break through the crust. That is a plateau. Now, an example of a plateau class is the plateau in Northern Ireland. It is called the Antrim Plateau. Okay, and there are some plateaus in India and USA. Okay, that's all the types of mountains we have. Next, we have the hills. Now, the hills are elevated landforms like the mountains, but they're smaller than the mountains class, and they're not that rocky also, like a fold mountain. An example of these hills are the Chocolate Hills, which can be found in Bohol. Okay, Bohol, Philippines. Next landform is the plain. A plain is a flat land with a wide area. That's just it. That's a plain. And as you can see in that background picture class, that is a plain. Example of a plain class is the Malig Plains, which can be found in the Philippines. Next up is the valley. A valley is a lowland area and is found between two mountains or mountains like this. Okay, and that is a valley. Next landform is the desert. A desert is a large and barren area with no rocky soil or vegetation. Take note of that class. No rocky soil or vegetation. Now, let me ask you guys, what is the largest desert on Earth? If you say it's the Sahara Desert, then you are wrong. The answer is the Antarctic Desert. Yes, the Antarctic Desert is the largest desert on Earth. When you speak about desert class, it is not always hot. It can be considered cold also. Yes. Basta, you will remember that a desert has no rocky soil, okay, like the Antarctic Desert, and no vegetation. When you ask, or when the question is, what is the largest hot desert, okay, it is the Sahara Desert. Again, the largest hot desert is the Sahara Desert. Okay, take note of that, class. Next landform is the glacier. Now, glaciers are the largest freshwater source on the planet. Take note of that, class. Okay, now the largest glacier in the world is the Lambert Fisher Glacier. It is found in Antarctica. Okay. Next up, we have the water forms. Now, one water form is we have the ocean. The ocean is the largest body of water. Now, there are 5 oceans of the world, class, or in the world. We have the Arctic Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Southern Ocean, and lastly, we have the Pacific Ocean. Now, every ocean, class, has a deep part, okay, called a trench. Now, we have the Mariana Trench, class, which is located in the Pacific. It is 36,000 feet below sea level, or 10.9 kilometers. It is the deepest part of the ocean in the world. The next water form is the sea. The sea is the next largest body of salt water and shallower than an ocean, meaning di siya deep when you compare it to an ocean. Okay, now examples of seas, okay, we have the South China Sea, the Red Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Arabian Sea, and the Philippine Sea. Okay, and there are many seas in the world, class. I cannot mention them all. Next body of water is the river. Now, a river, class, is a stream that carries fresh water. Now, begins from the mountains and then flows down to the valleys, and that's a river. Now, examples of a river is the Amazon River. The Amazon River, class, is the longest river on Earth. It is 6,992 kilometers and is found in South America. Next longest is the Nile River. It can be found in Egypt. It is 5,584 kilometers. How about here in the Philippines, class? What is the longest river in the Philippines? It is the Cagayan River. It is 505 kilometers. Okay, that's our longest river, class, here in the Philippines. Now next is we have the bay. Now, a bay is a body of water. Okay, it is connected to an ocean or a sea, as you can see in that picture. Now, it is bordered by land on 3 sides. Okay, so there's one side, 2, and 3. Okay, that is a bay. Now, how about the Gulf? Now, the Gulf, class, is similar to a bay, but wider. Okay, it has a wider and bigger opening. Now, that's all for the water forms on Earth. Now, let's proceed with the climate. Climate, so the average weather condition in a place exhibited over a period of time by humidity, temperature, precipitation, and wind velocity. Now, kung naglibog mo unsay difference between weather and climate, a weather can change within a few minutes or hours. Like for example, rain, okay, wind, sunshine, or thunderstorm. That is a weather. Now, climate takes a very long time, and the average of the weather, siyang climate. Okay, or a climate describes what the weather is like over a long period of time in a specific area. Now we have the climatic zones. Now there are 3. We have the polar zones, temperate zones, and the tropical zones. Now, the polar zones experiences below freezing temperature. Okay? And temperate zones has moderate temperatures and year-round rainfall. And tropical zones are the warmest average temperatures and gets abundant rainfall. Now, so here's the example, class. Okay, we have the polar zone, which is the pink part, the temperate zone, which is the yellow, and the tropical zone, which is the green. Now, take note class, tropical zones are near to the equator. That's why it's very, very hot in there. Okay, so places in the polar zones, we have the Arctic and Antarctica. Okay, those are the places in the polar zones. Now, temperate zones. So what are the places in the temperate zones? So we have US, India, Canada, Japan, New Zealand, and many more. Next, we have the tropical zones. Okay, so near to the equator, warmest temperatures and abundant rainfall. So what are the places? We have Mexico or Mexico. Or next is the Philippines. Another is Colombia, Venezuela. Okay, and all of Central America. Now, the three zones can be further subdivided into smaller zones. Okay, so each with its own typical climate, namely, we have polar, Mediterranean, temperate, tropical, and mountain. Now let's proceed with the ecosystem. Okay, take note class. An ecosystem is a community of plants and animals that live and interact in an environment. Now, this community is comprised of both biotic and abiotic factors. When you speak about biotic class, those are living things, okay, such as plants and animals. On the other hand, abiotic are non-living things, which living things need to survive, such as the sun, air, water, and soil. That is abiotic. Now take note class, several ecosystems make up a biome. So a biome is a region that is distinguished by the prevailing climate, and living things that thrive in it. First biome we have is the forest. Now the forest class makes up 1/3 of the Earth's surface. Take note class, 1/3 of the Earth's surface. Now the forest may be further grouped into temperate and tropical forests. So temperate forests can be found in America, Northern Europe, Southern Australia, and parts of Asia. Now, for the tropical forest can be found in the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brazil. That's the first biome class, forest. Now, the grasslands, the second biome, which is located in tropical and temperate regions or zones. Okay, so they are covered mainly with grasses and have a small number of trees and shrubs. That's the grasslands. Next. Now, next is the deserts. Now, take note class, the desert is not always hot, okay? It can be cold also. Basta, just remember, a desert is a barren area with no rocky soil or vegetation. That's a desert. Now, review, what is the largest desert on Earth? It is the Antarctic Desert. Now, if the question is, what is the largest hot desert? It is the Sahara Desert. Okay, next. The next biome is the tundra. It's a type of biome where the tree growth is hindered by low temperatures or stopped by low temperatures. The term tundra or the word tundra class means uplands or treeless mountain tract. Okay, next. And lastly, we have the aquatic biome. Now, this biome is divided into two. We have the freshwater and the marine regions. Again, we have the freshwater and the marine regions. Now, the freshwater region class covers only 0.8% of Earth's surface. Okay? Now, the freshwater habitats are found on all continents. Okay, except for Antarctica. Freshwater habitats include lakes, rivers, marshes, wetlands, and swamps. The cycle of evaporation of ocean water, rain, and snow provide these habitats a constant source of fresh water. Now, there are some animals that live here. So we have alligators, river dolphins, turtles, frogs, toads, and etc. Okay? Next, we have the marine regions. The marine region class covers 71% of the Earth's surface. So many organisms live in it. So we have sharks, swordfish, seahorses, whales, seals, squids or octopus, okay, and other marine animals. Now that's all for today, class. Thank you for listening. Stay safe and God bless you all.